The last laugh died away. Ralph turned involuntarily, a black humped figure against the lagoon. The assembly looked at him, considered the vast stretches of water, the high sea beyond unknown indigo of infinite possibility, heard silently the sough and whisper from the reef. Maurice spoke, so loudly that they jumped. "Daddy said they haven't found all the animals in the sea yet." Argument started again. Ralph held out the glimmering conch, and Maurice took it obediently. The meeting subsided. "I mean, when Jack says you can't be frightened because people are frightened anyway, that's all right. But when he says there's only pigs on this island, I expect he's right. But he doesn't know, not really. Not certainly, I mean." Maurice took a breath. "My daddy says there's things that, what you'd call them, that make ink, squids, that are hundreds of yards long and eat whole whales." He paused again and laughed gaily. I don't believe in the beast, of course. As Piggy says, life's scientific. But we don't know, do we? Not certainly, I mean." Someone shouted, "A squid couldn't come up out of the water." Couldn't. In a moment, the platform was full of arguing, gesticulating shadows. To Ralph, seated, this seemed the breaking up of sanity. And that's an important line there. So Ralph is looking at all these kids arguing, and he thinks that this is like something that's gone insane. Fear, beasts, no general agreement that the fire was all important, and when one tried to get the thing straight, the argument sheared off, bringing up fresh, unpleasant matter. He could see a whiteness in the gloom near him, so he grabbed it from Maurice and blew as loudly as he could. The assembly was shocked into silence. Simon was close to him, laying hands on the conch. Simon felt a perilous necessity to speak, but to speak in an assembly was a terrible thing to him. "Maybe," he said hesitantly, "maybe there is a beast." The assembly cried out savagely, and Ralph stood up in amazement. "You, Simon? You believe in this?" "I don't know," said Simon. His heartbeats were choking him, but... The storm broke. "Sit down! Shut up! Take the conch! Sword you! Shut up!" Ralph shouted. "Hear him! He's got the conch!" "What I mean is, maybe it's only us." "Nuts!" That was from Piggy, shocked out of decorum. Simon went on. "We could be sort of..." Simon became inarticulate in his effort to express mankind's essential illness. Inspiration came to him. When he's talking about mankind's essential illness, he's talking about this duality of man, your good side and your bad side. And man's essential illness is that there's a bad side within him. And then he asked this question, "What's the dirtiest thing there is?" As an answer, Jack dropped into the uncomprehending silence that followed it, the one crude expressive syllable. So he yells out the S word. Release was immense. Those little uns who had climbed back on the twister fell off again and did not mind. The hunters were screaming with delight. Simon's effort fell about him in ruins. The laughter beat him cruelly, and he shrank away, defenseless, to his seat. At last the assembly was silent again. Someone spoke out of turn. "Maybe it means it's some sort of ghost." Ralph lifted the conch and peered into the gloom. The lightest thing was the pale beach. Surely the little uns were nearer. Yes, there was no doubt about it. They were huddled in a tight knot of bodies in the central grass. A flurry of wind made the palms talk, and the noise seemed very loud now that darkness and silence made it so noticeable. Two gray trunks rubbed each other with an evil speaking that no one had noticed by day. Piggy took the conch out of his hands. His voice was indignant. "I don't believe in no ghosts, ever." Jack was up too, unaccountably angry. "Who cares what you believe, fatty?" "I got the conch." There was the sound of a brief tussle, and the conch moved to and fro. "You give me the conch back." Ralph pushed between them and got a thump on the chest. He wrestled the conch from someone and sat down breathlessly. "There's too much talk about ghosts. We ought to have left all this for daylight." A hushed and anonymous voice broke in. "Perhaps that's what the beast is, a ghost." The assembly was shaken as by a wind. "There's too much talking out of turn," Ralph said, "because we can't have proper assemblies if you don't stick to the rules." He stopped again. The careful plan of this assembly had broken down. "What do you want me to say then? I was wrong to call this assembly so late. We'll have a vote on them. On ghosts, I mean. And then go to the shelters because we're all tired." "No, Jack, is it? Wait a minute. I'll say here and now that I don't believe in ghosts. Or I don't think I do. But I don't like the thought of them. Not now, that is, in the dark. But we are going to decide what's what." He raised the conch for a moment. "Very well then, I suppose what's what is whether there are ghosts or not." He thought for a moment, formulating the question, "Who thinks there may be ghosts?" For a long time there was silence and no apparent movement. Then Ralph peered into the gloom and made out the hands. He spoke flatly. "I see." The world, that understandable and lawful world, was slipping away. Once there was this and that, and now... And the ship had gone. The conch was snatched from his hands and Piggy's voice shrilled. "I didn't vote for no ghosts!" He whirled round on the assembly. "Remember that, all of you!" They heard him stamp. "What are we? Humans or animals or savages? What's grown-ups going to think? Going off hunting pigs, letting fires out, and now?" A shout fronted him tempestuously. "You shut up, you fat slug!" There was a moment's struggle, and the glimmering conch jigged up and down. Ralph leapt to his feet. "Jack! Jack! You haven't got the conch! Let him speak!" Jack's face swam near him. "And you shut up! Who are you anyway? Sitting there telling people what to do? You can't hunt. You can't sing." "I'm chief. I was chosen." "Why should choosing make any difference? Just giving orders that don't make any sense." "Piggy's got the conch." "That's right. Favor Piggy as you always do." "Jack!" Jack's voice sounded in bitter mimicry. "Jack! Jack!" "The rules!" shouted Ralph. "You're breaking the rules!" "Who cares?" Ralph summoned his wits. "Because the rules are the only thing we've got." But Jack was shouting against him. "Bollocks to the rules! We're strong! We hunt! If there's a beast, we'll hunt it down. We'll close in and beat and beat and beat." He gave a wild whoop and leapt down to the pale sand. At once the platform was full of noise and excitement, scrambling screams and laughter. The assembly shredded away and became a discursive and random scatter from the palms to the water and away along the beach, beyond night sight. Ralph found his cheek touching the conch and took it from Piggy. "What's grown-ups going to say?" cried Piggy again. "Look at 'em!" The sound of mock hunting, hysterical laughter, and real terror came from the beach. "Blow the conch, Ralph!" Piggy was so close that Ralph could see the glint of his one glass. "There's the fire. Can't they see?" "You got to be tough now. Make 'em do what you want." Ralph answered in a cautious voice of one who rehearses a theorem. "If I blow the conch and they don't come back, then we've had it. We shan't keep the fire going. We'll be like animals. We'll never be rescued." "If you don't blow, we'll soon be animals anyway. I can't see what they're doing, but I can hear." The dispersed figures had come together on the sand, and were a dense black mass that revolved. They were chanting something, and little ones that had had enough were staggering away, howling. Ralph raised the conch to his lips, and then lowered it. "The trouble is, are there ghosts, Piggy? Or beasts?" "'Course there aren't." "Why not?" "'Cause things wouldn't make sense. Houses and streets and TV, they wouldn't work." The dancing, chanting boys had worked themselves away till their sound was nothing but a wordless rhythm. "But suppose they don't make sense? Not here on this island. Supposing things are watching us and waiting." Ralph shuddered violently and moved closer to Piggy so that they bumped frighteningly. "You stop talking like that. We got enough trouble, Ralph, and I've had as much as I can stand. If there is ghosts, I ought to give up being chief. Hear 'em. Oh, Lord! Oh, no! Piggy gripped Ralph's arm. If Jack was chief, he'd have all hunting and no fire. We'd be here till we died. His voice ran up to a squeak. Who's that sitting there? Me, Simon. That lot of good we are, said Ralph. 3 blind mice. I'll give up. If you give up, said Piggy in an appalled whisper, what had happened to me? Nothing. He hates me. I don't know why. If he could do what he wanted, you're all right. He respects you. Besides, you'd hit him. You were having a nice fight with him just now. I had the conch, said Piggy simply. I had a right to speak. Simon stirred in the dark. Go on being chief. You shut up, young Simon. Why couldn't you say there wasn't a beast? I'm scared of him, said Piggy, and that's why I know him. If you're scared of someone, you hate him, but you can't stop thinking about him. You kid yourself he's all right, really, and then when you see him again, it's like asthma, and you can't breathe. I tell you what, he hates you too, Ralph. Me? Why me? I don't know. You got him over the fire, and you're chief, and he isn't. But he's Jack Merridew. I've been in bed so much I've done some thinking. I know about people. I know about me and him. He can't hurt you, but if you stand out of the way, he'd hurt the next thing. And that's me. Piggy's right, Ralph. There's you and Jack. Go on being chief. We're all drifting and things are going rotten. At home there was always a grown-up. Please, sir, please, miss. And then you got an answer. How I wish my auntie was here. I wish my father. Oh, what's the use? Keep the fire going. The dance was over and the hunters were going back to the shelters. Grown-ups know things, said Piggy. They ain't afraid of the dark. They'd meet and have tea and discuss. Then things would be all right. They wouldn't set fire to the island or lose. They'd build a ship. The 3 boys stood in the darkness, striving unsuccessfully to convey the majesty of adult life. They wouldn't quarrel, or break my specs, or talk about a beast. If only they could get a message to us, cried Ralph desperately. If only they could send us something grown up, a sign or something. Which is foreshadowing. A thin wail out of the darkness chilled them and set them grabbing for each other. Then the wail rose, remote and unearthly, and turned to an inarticulate gibbering. Percival Weems Madison of the vicarage, Harcourt St. Anthony, lying in the tall grass, was living through circumstances in which the incantation of his address was powerless to help him. And that's it for Chapter 5. Next time we'll get into Chapter 6.